Hey there, here's a video for 122, and we're going to be talking about how do we compare these penny arrangements that we've been talking about to this point. So we want to we want to make sure we understand which is greater, are they the same, which representation best describes this quantity. And so we'll get into that. I'm actually going to skip over a couple of problems. 51 I'm going to skip over. 52 I'm actually going to skip over, and I'm going to start with 53. So what we have is, Hilda knows about the less than and greater than symbols that are used to write comparison statements. However, she can never remember which is which. She said, I have a way to remember that makes perfect sense, Artie said. Just write down the two things you're comparing side by side with space for the symbol between them. Then in the space between the two quantities, put two dots, one above each other next to the bigger value and one dot by the smallest. Now just connect the dots. Then he wrote the following diagram to show his method for part B of problem 152. Don't have to be in 152 to understand this. So what he is showing here is that the 5 times 25 right here, right, is the larger of the two quantities. So it's less than the 5 times 17 plus 2, 5 groups of 17 plus 2. And so because it's larger, he ended up putting, you can see that right there, 2 dots for the larger side and 1 dot, for the the lesser quantity. And then he just connects those, right? And so what does that create? That creates the greater than symbol, right? The greater than symbol, meaning that 5 groups of 25, is larger than the 5 groups of 17 plus 2. What do you think of his method? Will it always work? Try Artie's method with several expressions and values before deciding. I'm not going to write these in here. I want you to pause and try some examples yourself. And you don't even have to use quantities like this. Like these. You could simply just put in some numbers. So try it with a number, try it with another number, and try with your dots, right? 2 dots to the larger one and 1 to the single one. I want you to try 3 examples. Okay, 3 examples. Pause that and then try those, and then come back to try 154. All right, so you should have finished 153, and what'd you learn? Well, it does work. It does work as long as you know that you're putting the 2 dots next to the larger of the two and 1 by the single. It will create the less than or greater than symbol. Okay, and now let's move here to 1-54 with Alan and Dwayne. They would like to help comparing 2 piles of pennies. The pennies are arranged and represented at the diagrams at the right. Which pile has more pennies, and how do you know? Right. So what we could do is we could figure out just how many pennies each of them has, right? Each group has. So let's do pile 1 in blue. I noticed that all of that, 25, 25, 25, and 25, is going to be 100 pennies, right? This part's going to be 10, and then I have 4 at the end. So for the blue part, I have 100 plus 10 plus 4 to give me 114 pennies. Now let's look at pile 2. We'll choose a different color. Let's use I don't know what that is. All right. So pile 2, I noticed that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times 6 is 30. So 30 and plus this group right here, another group of 30, that's going to be, should be 60, right? Because I have 10 groups of 6 there. So down here, I noticed that that group right there is another 30. Plus 1, 2, 3, 4, that's going to be 24 here. So let's put that all together. 60 plus 30 plus 24, right? And we can line up our place values. Line up our place values. And what do we get? 4, and then 9, 10. Look at that. Nobody has more, huh? Which pile has more pennies? Neither. How do you know? I want you to take a second to write how you know. Right? So take a second to pause the video and write how you know that it's the same. And I guess we kind of did a lot of those numbers there. All right, you should have written your explanation, and now we're on to part B. With your team, write expressions that represent each pile. Then write a comparison of these expressions showing that if one is greater than the other or if they are the same. So we got to use this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I'll stick to the same color. I see that I have 4 groups of 25. That's how I got my 100. So I'm going to say I have 4 groups of 25 pennies. Then I have 2 groups of 5. So I'm going to add 2 groups of 5 plus my 4 individual pennies plus, 4. Okay. Then let's do this one. Pile 2. So for pile 2, I have 10 groups of 6. 10 groups of 6. Right? We use remember we discussed that parentheses are used to represent our groups, right? Then I have 9 groups of 6, so plus 9 groups of 6. Okay? So we wrote an expression that represents each pile. Then we write a comparison of these expressions showing one is greater or not if they're the same. In this case, I guess you could say that they are equal. I guess you could say there are 2 dots on each side, right? Equal. Okay. And now on to our last problem. Doreen and Delilah were comparing pennies from 2 teams. They wrote the comparison statement: 6 groups of 16 plus 3 greater than 4 times 9. Maybe I should just not 4 groups of 9 plus 4 groups of 9 plus 2. What arrangements could this represent, right? So what arrangements could this represent is so what you could do is just talk about what that would look like, right? You could draw a diagram of this very similar to what we had up above. I think just for the sake of the colors that we had, we could say 6 groups of 16. So I could write 16, right? 16, 16, and 16, and 16, and 16. There's my 6 groups of 16 plus 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we could also do the other one in the other color, right? 4 groups of 9. 9, 9, 9, 9, 9. And then I could do that again. I'm just going to duplicate that. Right? And then I have what? A plus 2 at the end, don't I? There we go. So there's kind of it could represent something like that, right? Now the question is could you find more than one possibility? Now we're not going to work with our team necessarily, but we're going to work individually to draw diagrams of the arrangement of pennies that they could have been comparing. So what I am going to ask you is I'll challenge you to see if you can come up with one other arrangement to represent or show this. Okay, so try it out, see if you can't come up with something. I'm not going to give you any big answer or reveal for something like this. I'm going to just let you try it out and see if you can find another answer. Let me see if there's anything else. I don't think there's anything here. I did want to take a second just to stop and pause and look at, this is in our CPM books. They're called math notes, basically. I have a really good review, usually of something that is very relevant to what we're looking at. So in this case, you can see that we are talking about that greater than. Whoops, I didn't want that. I wanted my highlighter. Greater than, less than, equal to. Then we can have a greater than or equal to and a less than or equal to. Okay? So a greater than means that it always is larger than the other value. A less than means that it's always less than that second value. Equal to is obvious. Greater than or equal to is a range because it includes the possibility of a value being equal, right? It includes that possibility of being equal. All right. If you have any other questions, please let me know. Have a good day.